episode of The Bandwagon Fan, show where we talk about all things pop culture. I'm AJ.
I'm Katé.
And today, we are your hosts. We're hanging out. How are you?
That's it. We're just here to talk.
It's as simple as it is. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. It's a simple show.
I mean, we're simple people. I'm a simple guy. You're a simple girl. Katé, how have you been?
I've been okay. It was a hot few days here in New York, and then there was supposed to be like a crazy rainstorm that would blow away the hotness.
Yeah.
No rainstorm happened, but hey, it was cooler today. So it was like the weather just decided on its own that we're going to give all these poor humans a break. So today was a lot nicer. And I started dog sitting. That's the main new thing in my life. So
so what? You have all kinds of different friends hanging out?
I have two main friends. One is named Shazzy, and the other is named Cherry. I don't pick the names. This is just,
Hey, I get it.
But no, I've been doing Rover, which, hey, if you want to sign up, hit me up for the referral code.
It's hard to get in. My brother tried. He couldn't.
Are you serious?
That's what he said. I don't know. I think it's probably easier now, but when it first came out,
it took a few days. You had to do a background check. You had to pay a sign-up fee. But so far, I don't know, too. Maybe it's based on what area you're in, but I'm in New York City, and I got my approval, and it was on last Friday, and I've done 3 gigs now. So it's been good, but I've done 3 gigs with the same 2 dogs. One dog is a little older York Terrier, and the other one's a cute little puppy that literally just falls asleep in my lap. So
so far so good.
I was gonna say, Rover, take my money, but actually no, Rover's giving me money. So
since you're getting into a new endeavor, and for all my listeners who are listening, I highly recommend that you and if Resolve, if you want to sponsor us, by all means, because you're gonna need one of these.
What is that?
It's the pee cleaner. I recommend the foam. The foam seems to work a little better. Trust me, I have 2 dogs, 2 pit mixes, and let me tell you, I basically go through these.
Podcast.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for the pet podcast.
Everyone,
use Resolve. It will save your life. And if you can get one of those carpet cleaners too, that's also. I don't know if you have a rug. Some dogs like going on rugs. I think it it simulates grass or something. So
or a pee pad. That's what my fear is with watching an older dog. The house where I've been picking him up from, they have rugs, and I'm always like, please don't go. Wait till we're outside. And then the other dog's house, it's hardwood floors, but they have pee pads. But then I took the dog out on a walk, and we had to pass by someone's doormat, and I think the puppy thought the doormat was a pee pad, and I was like, no, because this dog has been trained to pee on squares.
Pee pads never worked for me personally, because my dogs didn't recognize these things as areas to pee. They kind of just looked at it and they're like, oh, a new thing to chew. And it just got to the point where I'm like, it's just easier just to teach them to go outside. So I can never get pee pads to work. I've seen some TikToks that kind of say try this. So I'm like, if I ever get another puppy down the road, maybe I'll try some of those TikToks. But pee pads are great. I know they're good.
I just don't understand how you get the dog to go from, okay, they've learned the pee pad, but now how do they learn that outside is also...
Yeah, that was my exact same hurdle. I'm like, I don't understand that transition. I'm like, it's just easier to let them know, don't do it here, do it here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So, just a pro tip. If you can't get a carpet cleaner or something, get one of these.
Get some Resolve.
You'll thank me, okay? In your Rover career, you will thank me. It's funny. Did I ever tell you the name of our dogs?
I actually don't know the names of your dogs.
You don't know that? Okay, so I have a pit bull lab. His name is Zeus. He's the older one.
Zeus.
He's the family genius. He's the smartest dog I have ever had in my life. He's a super intelligent dog. And then the other one. He's not the smartest dog, but you know what? He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of spunk. His name is Bear.
Bear.
So Bear and Zeus, those are my boys. They're
Oh,
good
I thought you were
guys.
just gonna say his name was the other one, and I was like, "Dang,
The,
you
the
really
other
don't
one?
like him."
No,
You
no,
were like, "There's
I love
Zeus
both
and
my
then
dogs.
the other one," and I was
No,
like,
no,
"Dang."
Bear is like the most like friend. Like, he looks mean, but he's like the most friendly dog like I've ever
Mm,
had. He's so friendly. All he wants to do is have you cuddle him, have you pet him. So,
like a
Bear and Zeus,
bear.
like a bear. Speaking of bears,
Oh,
uh,
yes.
yeah, Kate, we watched the show.
Yes, we
What was
did.
that show? What was that show called again?
It was called The Bear.
Ah, you like that
The
transition?
Bear.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, no, it's a show that's pretty awesome, and AJ had mentioned it before. I'm gonna give him the credit. AJ had mentioned the
Yeah.
show, and I think that myself and some other bandwagoners were like, "Nah, nah, okay." And then I watched it, and I think after the first episode, I was like, "I like this. I really like this. Let's talk about it."
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I watched the show. I remember seeing trailers for the show, and I'm like, oh. Now, I'll be honest with you.
Mhm.
FX has like a different like I guess you can say like agenda
Aren't
for
they
TV
more
shows.
gritty? They're kind of gritty, you
Yeah, a
know?
little bit. I don't know if gritty is the right term. I think they're just more like their programming is more adult centered.
Mhm.
Before FX was purchased by Disney, that was kind of Fox's thing. Like FX was kind
Mhm.
of the channel or the broadcasting stream that would allow them to say cuss words and stuff like that on their
Mhm.
on a show, whatever. And so I think that's what it was. I wouldn't say grittier because not all of the shows were gritty. Shows like
Mhm.
Dave, shows like Atlanta, shows like The League. What's another
Mhm.
big show I'm missing from FX? They have a lot of
Fargo?
shows. Fargo's that's
Is
pretty
that
gritty. No, actually, that's Showtime. I think.
is it?
I
Oh,
can't
I
remember.
typed in Fargo or I typed in FX shows, and I
It
see
might be FX.
American Crime Story,
American Crime
Fargo.
Stories, yeah. So they have like a just like it's not necessarily gritty shows. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. They
Mhm.
it's just more like adult centered, adult centric shows, which
Mhm.
is which is good. I think all their shows on FX, most of the shows on FX, I like them because they seem to have like a very specific focus. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I feel like they tackle. It's almost like HBO light, if that makes any
Yes.
sense.
No, I
Like
agree.
they have this like specific focus, and some projects don't work out and whatever. But I think sometimes they do stumble on these really
Like a
interesting ideas
golden
and
nugget.
concepts. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I when I saw the trailer for this, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to be a comedy. I thought it was going to
You
be a
would think.
comedy in the vein of like The League. So that was actually
Mhm.
why I was so excited to watch it. I was like, oh, this looks like it could be funny.
It was that. I mean,
It wasn't really funny.
it's not very funny. No, I mean, AJ, you're not wrong. When I typed it into Hulu, I clicked to watch
Yeah,
the first episode. It said drama, comma, comedy. And I thought
yeah,
that this was gonna be like The Office, but they're cooking. And like,
yeah,
I really thought it was gonna be a lighter show. And to all you listeners out there, like, don't turn away from it because it's not all ha ha ha. But the show, I mean, like, I have noticed there's scenes where I'm like, okay, I could see someone else laughing at this and thinking that's a little funny. But to me, I get sucked in so much by the drama of every episode that my mind's not light. I'm not in a light, haha, jokey, this is a comedy mood
yeah.
when I'm watching it.
Yeah, I think one of the things I really enjoyed about the show was the pacing and
Mhm.
the way it's directed, like between the
Mhm.
cinematography and the dialogue. Like I used to work in a kitchen, so like the dialogue is like on point. Like not
Mhm.
like the way they're running their kitchen, not like a super professional kitchen, but the way it was before it turned into the bear. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So like I
Yes.
some of the terminology, this like love hate relationship you have with your coworkers and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
thought that was great. I thought that was
Yes.
awesome.
Why don't we get into what the show's
Yeah,
about a little bit more, and then
yeah,
'cause I definitely wanna talk more about some of these characters with you, especially because
sure.
one of them reminds me of you a little
Oh,
bit.
I already know who it is.
I feel like you know. I think you can tell because you also kind
Yeah,
of look like him.
yeah, yeah.
I hope we say the same one when we get to that,
We could
but,
get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah,
I'll go over some quick specs for our listeners. It's on Hulu. Like we said, it's it's produced by FX, but on Hulu. It did come out in late June of this year,
Mm-hmm.
so it's still pretty new. You still have time to watch this. You still basically have a year because it has been approved for a second season. There's no release date for the second season, but it's probably going to be next year. So you have until the next season comes out to catch up. It's only 8 episodes. Each one's only about 20 to 30 minutes long. And what I really appreciate is that most everyone is a new face in the acting world. The main character, I know he's from the TV show Shameless, and he was a teenager in that, but he's an adult
Yeah.
now, that actor, yeah, and
Yeah.
so, um, it's a great, interesting new cast, new faces, new talent, but also incredible talent. AJ, do you wanna, like, explain a little bit about what the show is about?
Yeah. So as a top down like synopsis, the show is about our main character, Carm.
Mhm,
Carm is he's like I want to say he's like a world renowned chef, but
mhm.
he's worked at one of these like Chef Gordon, like
World-renowned restaurants,
world
maybe.
renowned restaurant. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
And we start the show where his brother has passed away,
mhm,
and we are trying to understand, you know, kind of like the circumstances that led to his death, and as a result
mhm,
of him dying, he gifts Carmen his restaurant, the
mhm.
Bear. So I'm gonna put you on a little game real quick because
Oh
there are
gosh.
some components about this show that if you don't live in Chicago, like you kind of like miss the nuance of. So
Mhm,
like a big thing in Chicago. So a lot of people make this assumption that like deep dish pizza is like the go to like food that
mhm,
people eat in Chicago. It is not. Deep dish pizza is only eaten by people if they don't live in the city of Chicago. So
mm.
Italian beef is like that's like our version of like chopped New York chopped cheese,
Ah, chopped
our
cheese, like
version of
bagel and
like
cream cheese.
yeah, or our version of
Street
like Philly
tacos in LA.
cheesesteak or street taco. Yeah, that's our version. So
That's interesting.
understand that like an Italian beef spot is an establishment, right? And so Carmen is gifted this Italian beef restaurant, and we learn very quickly that he either quit or left or whatever reason. He's no longer
Mhm,
in the high end culinary game, and so
mhm,
he's trying to now change his brother's restaurant into, I wouldn't say like he's not trying to change it to like a 3 or 4 star restaurant, but he's trying to make it his vision of what the restaurant could be.
yes,
Um,
and
and
streamline it because we
yeah.
early on see I mean, from the moment the first episode starts, it's hectic, it's loud, it's crazy, you can tell that this place has been run for a very long time in this way of disorderly, but kind of with pride. I think that's the thing too, is that the
Hmm.
established employees, the different, you know, cooks who were working there, which at the point too, I would call them cooks. I really feel like Carm's
Hmm.
trying to get them to a point where they're
To be
chefs.
chefs. Yeah.
And you can just see this place is just yeah, it's just ran and it's all over the place. And I mean, things are delivered wrong, the wrong amounts, the kitchen's dirty, there's fires, there's just people screaming. It's pretty crazy. Which makes this show very interesting, the craziness, but also what's interesting is to see Carm try to straighten out the craziness.
Yeah, he's trying to straighten out the craziness because his biggest obstacle, and I thought this was like this is like one of the many things I loved about the show. But one of his biggest obstacles is this idea that it's not broken, so let's not fix it. And so
Mhm,
a big obstacle or hurdle, I guess you can say, is Richie, his cousin. His
mhm.
cousin Richie, which I love the joke. Again, another Chicago thing. It's not really his cousin, but you just say cousin because it's just easier if you've known
I
them for
didn't
your
know
whole life.
that.
So yeah, that's another Chicago thing. So I thought that
He
was really funny too.
said it I think in, like, the second episode or something, he said something like,
Yeah,
"He's
he's
not
like,
my
you're not
real
even. He's
cousin."
not my real cousin. Yeah, that's yeah. So Richie
Yeah.
is uh
But he's like a
Carmen's.
family. He's
Yeah,
like
he's
family.
yeah, he's like family. Mike, who is Carmen's brother, who owned the restaurant, him and Richie and Mike, they were like best friends. And I think you got the sense, I don't remember if they said it at some point, but they got the sense that they've kind of just grown up with each other. And so Carmen has looked to both Richie and Mike as big brothers, that kind of thing. So Richie is kind of upset because, you know, he feels like Carmen is coming in and just destroying the restaurant. And in reality, maybe even he thinks that he's tarnishing Mike's name, if that makes any sense, in the process. And so
I can see it almost like he's dishonoring his memory. Like, why are you changing this? It's like the last thing we have of him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the vibe from the whole restaurant, all the cooks in the restaurant. They just unwilling to change. So the show is about Carmen trying to bring on this change. And the third and final main character of the show is Sydney. Sydney is this another classically trained chef who comes to work at this restaurant. I can't remember the name. I think it was like Big Beef or something like that.
It's the Beef.
Beef. That's what
it
was.
Like Chicagoland, the Beef.
Which is a real place, by the way. It's a real place that they filmed that in. Yeah. Oh. So Sydney comes into the restaurant. I think it's called something else, but Sydney comes into the restaurant to work there, and specifically to work with Carmen because she knows Carmen's pedigree, you know, in the culinary world. And so Carmen is a young chef. She has a lot to prove, but she's very inexperienced in comparison to Carmen. And so she kind of wants to set her foot and her standing in the culinary world, and she thinks Carmen can teach her how. And so Carmen, a lot of the show is kind of postured like Carmen and Sydney versus the rest of the kitchen. But in the reality, it's just I guess you could say a classic tale of like old school versus new school. And how can that blend? You know what I'm saying?
It feels very much like, I feel like in movies, sometimes there's like the training montage. I feel like you could almost look at these 8 episodes as the montage of like Sydney whipping their butt in shape with Carm's guidance and blessing. But you also mentioned something too, that it's almost like Carmen and Sid versus the rest. Wherein, if anything, I think there's a lot of scenes where it's Carmen and Sydney arguing within each other. Which is they're arguing what is the best way to, you know, bring success to the restaurant. And I think
that's still old school versus new school. You know what I mean? Because Carmen comes from like the classically trained, and Sydney comes from, I guess you could say, like a more new school. Like she didn't work in like a big restaurant. She did catering. You know what I mean?
And she wants to do ordering through online ordering and apps and delivery and Uber Eats and stuff.
Exactly. And it's like all things that Carmen isn't super comfortable with, but he's willing to do it because, and we'll get into this later, but the show is not shy to tell you that Sydney is a better chef than Carmen. Sydney has, yes. So the way I perceive a lot of their scenes where there's resistance, I think it's one of these things where it's like the teacher can see the potential in the student, and the potential is greater than the teacher's, but the student doesn't have the experience. And I think they tell you that very early on. I think one of the easiest scenes, and again, guys, this show, I got to tell you, I personally love this show. I thought it was written very, very well. I thought the way it tells its story was done in a different way. You know, it's not a new like story, but it's done differently enough. It's interesting. And one of the earlier scenes when Carmen is cooking, and he's telling Marcus about, Marcus is also inspired by Carmen, and he's wants
like their baker.
Yeah, he's their baker, but he wants to be a real, like a classically trained baker. And so one of the best scenes to describe what I'm talking about is that Carmen is telling Marcus and some of the other guys that, like, you know, when he was working at this big restaurant, that he would have to work to figure this complicated dish out. And Sydney was able to finish the answer. Now, Sydney is younger in age than where Carmen is in that story. And I think that's where the show is trying to tell you that, like, Sydney is a better cook, or has potential to be a better cook than Carmen is. And I thought that was like one of these things where I'm like, that's where I feel like a lot of their differences come into play, because Sydney's like, I know it should be this way. And Carmen's kind of like, we don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like an unknown thing. So that was like an
Mm.
example of those two characters that I loved a lot. I thought that it's like the iron sharpens iron type of
Mm.
concept. You know what
I
I'm
see
saying?
that, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like
it is
a
really
knife, like a
interesting.
chef knife.
Like a chef, I know, I was gonna say, there's so many cooking puns in here. It is true, though, I mean, watching Sydney be sharpened by Carm, but then also I think I don't know, it's kinda like she's managing up to him, like,
Mm-hmm.
she's helping him grow as a leader while also he's helping her grow as a leader. Because when he first tells her and I think it's in, like, episode 2 or 3, he's like, "Alright, we're gonna start running this place," and they called it, like, French style, and she knew what that was, no one else did,
No one
and
else did.
she's like, "I really don't wanna do this, I'm nervous to do this," and it's like, no, he's like, "You can do it. You're gonna do it. You can do it. You're gonna do it." And they do it, and it's really interesting to, like and the show is really good too at showing the other little relationships throughout it because you see that Marcus, the baker pastry guy, starts growing this passion to, like, want to get better. I think everyone in this show every kitchen staff member was kinda like, this is just a job. That's it." And you can see throughout the 8 episodes, which is crazy too that in only 8
I know,
episodes,
only 8 episodes.
they're
Yeah.
able to show the character growth and see these cook. You look at them, you're like, whatever, they're just
Like
frying
you said,
onions all day.
they were just cooks. Yeah.
They were just cooks, and now they're like they're talking in, like, chef professional kitchen lingo. They're, like, wearing matching aprons. They're doing proper, keeping their fridges clean, labeling things, stocking correctly, prepping the right amounts of food. It's really impressive, and I feel like you feel a sense of pride as you're watching them and being like, "Whoa, like, look what happens when you really actually try and become disciplined." I think that's
Yeah.
the point of it. It's like the discipline is amazing.
Yeah, it was like watching the slowest montage of all time.
Yes, the slowest training
Yeah,
montage.
yeah, you hit it on the head. For real quick, do I remind you of Marcus?
Yes, yeah, you
Yes.
got it.
So you know what's really funny?
No.
He is the reason why I kept watching the show.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that
You're like
arc
my
was
twin, me, oh my.
no, no, not like that. But okay. Look, I know this may seem corny to some people. Representation, but representation does matter. And
Oh,
like
I
one of the
thought
things
that's
that
the first thing I noticed. I was
yeah,
like, because
yeah.
most of the
There's
cast is
so
not
many as
white.
not white. Exactly. So
Yeah.
one of the things that drew me to it, because I think but maybe our listeners don't know. I love to cook.
Mhm.
I in a different world, I think I probably would have gone to like culinary school and try to like actually become a chef. So I saw a
Aw.
lot of like Marcus's aspirations in myself, and that's why I kept watching the show.
Yeah.
So
I
you know
love
what?
Marcus's character.
Me too.
Anybody listening, you're gonna like his character. You can't not like
Yeah,
his character.
yeah. He's an incredibly lovable
Yeah.
character.
And you
Yeah,
see him falling in love with cooking
which I
and or
love.
baking. You see him
Making, yeah.
exactly, but it is sad too because there is a tension moment because you realize he's kinda neglecting his duties because he's so excited to, like, create this new donut, and it's
Yeah.
just like you're like, "Ah, Marcus, like, you're gonna get in trouble." It's like if the person at
Yeah.
work is just really into their
Not
side project and then they let their main job fall to the
fall
wayside
through.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that's so. I'm not sure if you've seen Uncut Gems.
I
Have you
you know
seen
what's
Uncut
so
Gems?
funny? I
Uncut
have not
Jobs.
seen that,
Okay.
but Uncut Gems,
Uncut
but
Jobs.
the funny thing you mentioned about that is, after I think I was even not I don't know if I did finish the show or I was halfway through, but I called Alex one day and I was telling him about it, and I was telling him how really good the show was, and I said, "It's like my anxiety is high while I'm watching it, but I'm loving it." I was like, "This movie is like it feels like you're on speed, you feel really anxious, everyone's yelling, they have accents, they've got these Chicago accents, it's like light mobster vibes because 'cause I'm not really into
Yes.
mobster I don't really like crime drama
Sure.
mobster stuff, but there's just that slight bit of
Hinge
Chicago
of
mobster vibes,
yes.
and then I told Alex this, and he was like, "That sounds like Uncut Gems, but with cooking," and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's so funny. He said that. So Alex and I sometimes I'm like Alex and I we think exactly the same sometimes, and so I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly what I was thinking watching the whole season. That like it felt so. I enjoyed Uncut Gems.
Okay.
However, it is overwhelming. It
Oh,
is
I
a
felt
little
overwhelmed with
overwhelming,
the show a few
and
times.
yeah. So I think where this show excels is the pacing. I feel like those chaotic moments are small enough where you, the watcher, don't feel bombarded to the point where you just cannot finish it. Because that was a complaint I have with Uncut Gems, that like by the hour 20 minute, I'm like, my brain is totally fatigued from all the yelling and the, one of the things about Uncut Gems that's so
High
unique is that
stress.
the high stress is one of it, but the dialogue is so genuine. Where
Oh.
like the conversation, you sometimes, I guess, you can forget that you're watching people act, and the dialogue is just so raw and genuine. And so
That's how this felt.
and that's why I'm comparing it, because that I felt like the same thing was achieved here, but in a better format. You know what I mean?
You feel
The
like you're
episodes,
watching real coworkers interact, real
yes,
family
real
interact,
family,
and I
yes,
mean, I think
yes.
that's why there were moments where I felt anxious because there's these scenes, which, to give a little more background to listeners who haven't watched it, there's, the main guy, Carm, we've got the kitchen staff, his cousin, Richie, who's basically like a pseudo older brother figure. But then he has a sister. They have this uncle who they're in debt to. The restaurant owes him money. There's a lot of family. The show feels very family style, which is another funny thing to reference, because as a kitchen, they eat together every day, family style. Um, and then you get the vibe this place is like a family, but I think like a family,
We
there can
fight.
be fights,
Yeah.
conflicts, drama, attitudes, past beef. There's past beef, there's present beef.
Ah, there it is.
There it is. There it is. But and I think, and then AJ, you mentioned earlier that you really like the cinematography. I think also the editing is amazing, because in the moments where the characters are having a high stress dialogue, it will be like somehow at the same time, it's like the pot's overboiling, the
It's like the
beef is
least
burning.
important thing.
Yeah, they mashed it up together that it would be like in these scenes
Yeah.
where there's like high tension, you're like, also the camera's showing like, there's one scene where Sydney is so angry at people and she's reaching for something. Someone offers to help. She's like, no, I got it. And you see her
Oh
struggling with it.
yeah.
And then she drops this bucket of like veal everywhere. And it's like, but then every time something like that happens in the show, every time there's this tension, the boiling point is rising. The same time, something literally in the kitchen, a food item, is experiencing that same pressure, and then
Yeah.
it's only released once the I don't know,
The
the
dish is
kitchen,
up. Yeah.
once, yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm
that's
impressed,
that's
very
that's a
impressed.
very that's a very good point. And anxiety is really like a theme in this show as well, because like I said before, Carm had left his high pressure, 4-star, culinary restaurant job to work, to work in this smaller environment. And so, we see him go through a lot of his personal, I guess you could say, journey. He's
Mhm.
trying to understand where he is. And I felt like that last episode it was such a good, like, if they never got another season, which I'm glad they do, but they
Mm.
never got another season, I felt like that was such
So, yeah.
a good way to end the show, because Carmen is really struggling with this idea of like, who am I? Because he
Mhm.
tied his identity with his older brother, Mike.
Mhm.
Mike was this galvanizing personality that
Charismatic.
everybody looked at, super charismatic. Also, the last episode revealed, played by John
Ugh,
Bernthal.
Bernthal.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I see, it's so funny you mentioned that. I'll be really quick on this. That that broke the fourth wall for me. I'm
No
sorry. I
way.
love John Bernthal. I think he's an amazing actor. Every time I see him in something, I'm like, there he is. There's the man,
Yeah.
because that man is such a great actor. I love seeing him and stuff. But what really took me out of it for this was Carm has a sister, and then we have
Yep.
Michael, the brother.
Yep.
All three of them looked nothing alike. I mean, okay, Carm and his sister Natalie, or he calls her Sugar, they look related. I can see it. They both have very pale Anglo features, very pale, very
Really?
pink, red
Mm.
face. Throughout the show, it's like they're both pale, blonde, blue eyed. John Bernthal, dark brown hair, tan skin, brown
Tan
eyes. I'm like,
skin.
the man looks Latino. He does not look like these pasty white, like,
That's funny.
Well,
That's really funny.
it
Well,
broke the fourth wall for me. I was just like, "This is not their brother. This cannot be Michael. This is John Bernthal. The man looks nothing like them. He cannot be their brother."
so that's so sad because I liked that casting. I felt like I didn't expect him. It was really surprising when they revealed that's who the brother was, but it made sense for the person the show explained to us. This
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
ultra
he plays
charismatic
that.
person who slowly started going deeper off the deep end with drugs.
Mhm.
And also, like you said before, you said this show had like these like small mob ties.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, they're not small. It's actually the root of their problem. And
Mhm.
so I feel like he fits that character. I feel like in
Yeah.
another season we're gonna get some
More.
Punisher-esque scenes of John Bernthal
Yeah.
like's character, like, because you can tell by the way everyone speaks about him
Mhm.
that he's devolving. You know what I mean? Like he's devolving a little bit, and so um, I'm going to be interested because I think he could do that character well.
Mhm.
I wasn't pulled out of it as strong, but I can see what you're saying. I never
It
looked at it that
pulled
way,
me
but I
out.
can see what you're saying for
I
sure.
would say
Um,
I still finished the show. I'm still planning to watch it, and we should
mhm,
go over what our final thoughts are
mhm.
and recommend and if we're into it, which I'm we're into it.
Yeah, we're into it.
But I think for me, there were so many other new faces in this show. I kinda wanted to
Mhm.
see a new face, a new talent
Sure.
because, I think why not give that chance? 'Cause Jon Berthol's already great and amazing at so many things, and I feel like sometimes that happens too, at least for me, when I see one actor who's just, like, on a high right at the time, they're, like, in everything, which I think
Mhm.
is great that's showing they're on a high, but then I'm also kinda like, "Okay, they're amazing, we get it, but, like, let's make some room for other people." But,
Yeah. No,
you
I
know yeah.
I understand that. I mean, that makes sense. I did think of something that was funny though, is
Mm.
because you did say like give room for somebody else. There is a character in the show named Neil. If you remember, he's like the handyman.
Oh, they
Uh,
come back.
yeah, that's his last name, Neil Fack.
Okay.
Or they just call him Fack, right?
Mhm.
So what's really funny is that he's the only real chef on the show. Maddie Madison is a
Mhm.
real chef. You might have seen him on YouTube. He works with Vice/Munchies. He has his own
Yes.
channel with them, and he makes a lot of good food. He's the only real chef. So that was kind of like the running joke that, like, when he's asking to cook, and they're like, "No, well, he's the only real. He could legitimately cook.
Actually
He comes
cook.
from that world. Yeah. So
He
I think
is
this is one of his
hilarious.
early. He's very, very, very funny. This is his only third like this is like his third thing that he's been on, and this is I think one of the third. This is one of the few things he's actually acted in. So
Mhm.
you know, to their credit, they are doing that. You know what I mean? And with
Or yeah.
and all the other major actors, Sydney, Marcus. I've never seen them in anything before, especially
Mhm.
Sydney. Which
Even, there's 2 older kitchen members,
yes,
Ibrahim
and
and Tina.
Tina. Thank you. Yes,
Oh, by
yes.
the way, Tina, she reminded me of I had a coworker once. Not only did she remind me in personality, but in looks, because my old coworker was like I think she was, like, half Jamaican and half
Yeah,
Dominican or something, and
yeah,
Tina has that vibe of very, like, Afro Latina looking, very sassy, very,
yeah.
very angry,
Very
eh,
protective.
very
I would say
protective.
protective. Yes, very protective of
Maybe I shouldn't
her.
say very
Very
angry, but
prideful. Yeah, very prideful. Very protective. And
yes.
I think that's what made the show work, in my opinion. I think that it felt like I'm watching real people.
Mhm.
So Kate, what are your final thoughts about the
Final
show?
thoughts are I am really interested to see what happens because there are still so many untold parts. I think they've told us a lot of past backstory, enough backstory to get you hooked, but there's still so many other mysteries. There's mysteries of more about Carmen, Michael, and Natalie's family, mysteries about Richie's relationships. We learned a little bit about how he's got some problems at home.
Mm.
I'm also invested to see I'm kind of hoping for a budding romance.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't know if you
yeah,
know who I'm thinking of, maybe Marcus and Sydney.
yeah. I hope so.
I mean, yes, I am hooked. There's enough in the past that I wanna know, and there's enough about the future that I wanna know with these characters, so I'm
Hmm.
I'm along for the ride. I'm on the bandwagon.
Yeah. The last episode I thought sealed it for me. I thought there was so much I liked about it, and the way that it pulls all together. Your story should kind of fit together, like when you're done tying your shoe. It should
Mm-hmm.
just kind of just go on with a knot, and I felt like that's what that last episode did. I
Mm-hmm.
love the characters. I love the actors. I think they all did a really good job, specifically with Sydney, the actress that
Mm-hmm.
played Sydney. I think she knocked it out of the park. I thought she might have been my favorite part of the show. She was I for lack of a better term, she was like the literal heartbeat of the kitchen and
Mm-hmm.
also the show. She's Carmen's reality check, and that's what I like about that dynamic, right? That like Carmen, it's a weird thing to think about, but I think without giving too much of the last episode away, one of the revelations Carmen comes to terms with is that he feels rudderless because he always tried to measure up to his brother. Without his brother, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know what to climb to. He doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't know what type of achievements to reach. And I think Sydney is that for him. If he
Mm-hmm.
cannot, if he cannot be, if he cannot find that next mountain to climb, he wants to be that mountain for her. If that makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He wants to try to be as the best as he can so that she
Mm-hmm.
can try to achieve over him. I love that. I
And he can
absolutely love
talk to
that.
her. He
And
can
he can
talk to her
talk to
about
her.
things that the other people might not know because she actually has
They speak the
experience.
same
They
language.
speak the same kitchen
Yeah.
language, and they have the same set of expectations for perfection, and I agree. I think back to what you said earlier about the iron blade sharpening blade, that's
Yeah.
their relationship, and I'm
That's the
excited to see
relationship.
it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this episode, TV doesn't get much better than this. I
Yes, if you're looking
cannot
for a great
recommend
show.
this. Yes, I
Mhm,
cannot recommend this enough. We are in an era where there are more TV shows than ever before.
mhm.
And let's be honest, a lot of them are butt cheeks. I'm looking at
But
you, Netflix. Yeah, Netflix with your Resident Evil remake. Okay, a lot of them are just not very thoughtful, not very
mhm,
thought out. You will enjoy this.
yes,
It's easy to watch. Each episode's only 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
or
it's
less. I
very
think
easy.
some were
And
less.
less, yeah. Some of them are less. It's very easy to watch.
I
There's
watched it
no
in, like,
reason.
3 days. It was
Yeah,
so good.
exactly. Exactly.
You
So
watch one episode, you're already ready to watch a second one, like and you
yeah,
picked a really good word, thoughtful. I was gonna say this is a thoughtful show. They're thinking
yeah,
about the script. They're I was gonna say, if I was a Chicago native, which, I mean, you are,
yeah.
I could feel that there were shout outs to things that you would know. There was slang,
Oh, I
there
could
was
sit here. I could sit here all day and just like laugh about some of like the silly little things of like one of my favorite scenes was like those guys who were hanging outside the restaurant and like they
mhm.
were doing their drug business out there, and then the way that it's diffused is with sandwiches. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what would happen. No lie, So
Mhm.
yeah, watch it.
Watch the show, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, guys,
Dang.
that's our show. Kate,
We're
want to
gonna
usher us
we're
out?
gonna head out so that you
Yeah.
guys can watch the show. We're gonna end it now so that you put on Hulu and you just watch it, okay? Sounds good?
That sounds good to
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, thank you for listening to our show. If you guys can find us on every major podcast streaming platform: Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Pod Us. Zencaster has a podcast platform now for some reason.
Mhm.
I don't know who's using that. Whatever. You can also find us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and there's one more I'm forgetting. But regardless, you can find us
Mm.
on everyone that's available at the Bandwagon Fan Podcast.
Mhm.
Let us know, if you liked the episode, if you watched the show, if you didn't agree, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you guys for listening,
Yeah.
and see you guys next time.
Bye.
The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Margosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Katé Smith and edited by your boy, AJ. Our social media is managed by Natalia Kokulia, and our theme song, Lush Way,